You've had Wendy's nuggets dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new Saucy Nuggs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parmesan, or if you're a real heat seeker, try spicy ghost pepper only on Wendy's signature Saucy Nuggs. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. It is a fixed day. Week 3. We are turning the page on week 2. Going to week 3. Ari, if everybody wants to hear our thoughts on week 2, we've got plenty of stuff out there. We had a Notre Dame video that we put out last night about reevaluating Marcus Freeman. That's on the On3 Sports YouTube channel. We've got a video about Dylan Raiola and the comparisons to a certain other number 15 who wears a red jersey. We've got a plea to Billy Napier to go with the kid.
Please, Billy.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit with the picks, for sure. But we are turning the page to week 3. But as Goat Dog said in the chat, college football where hell breaks loose weekly. And it's entirely possible it's going to do that again this week. I was looking at the slate, and it's one of those where you're looking at it and you go, I don't know where the chaos comes, but it's probably coming somewhere.
You know, the best part of this week, too, is that we have really good games before Saturday.
Yes.
Too. So, you know, you look at the slate, and I remember as we were doing our travel plans, we're in Columbus, Ohio right now, and I'm reliving my youth a little bit. But you're like, well, we're going to have a hard time figuring out, or we made the right decision going to Alabama, Wisconsin, because it doesn't really have a lot of other big game appeal this weekend. And then I sat through Saturday.
Yeah.
And it's like, for all you know, the biggest game of the week is going to be in Columbia or some other place.
One of the Columbias, whether it's LSU, South Carolina, or Boston College, Missouri. Exactly. Exactly. And there's a lot at noon. Like is this the best noon slate of all time?
Andy, forgive me. What time does the Wisconsin Alabama game start?
That starts at noon.
Oh, it does. Okay. Well, crap. But,
big noon.
You know, we have computer screens and iPads and press box TVs. You'd be amazed how many games we all can watch at one time, and I cannot wait.
Well, commercials help.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them now with the 2-minute. Just call it the 2-minute warning. What are we doing with the 2-minute? Just call it.
I know it's so stupid. I remember we were talking to John McDade, the SEC coordinator of officials at SEC Media Days, and he's like, "I'm gonna stop you right there. It's 2-minute timeout. We're not calling it the 2-minute warning."
Yeah, no, we're not going to do that.
We need to call it the 2-minute warning because that's what everybody calls it, because that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what we do in America anyway. We have our things that things are called, and then we have things that we call them that in a new way, but it's still the old thing.
Yeah, the thing is, it's been around for, I don't know how many years it's been around in the NFL, but it's something everybody knows and everybody understands. It's a concept you're introducing in college football, but it's not an unfamiliar concept to everyone else.
Because everybody knows what
it is. So just call it the thing everybody was already calling it. Don't bend over backward trying to be different.
Well, let me ask you about how we're on this topic. We didn't mean to get onto this topic. There is a hive of people on Twitter that hate the 2-minute timeout.
Right.
Through a few weeks of football, do you have any blazing feeling about it, or does it just seem like normal now?
No, it seems like normal because I've been watching it on Sundays forever.
Yeah.
And it's a correction, and you can call it an overcorrection if you want, to them essentially changing the clock rules to the NFL clock rules last year, where you don't stop the clock on first downs except in the last two. Well, the NFL doesn't stop the clock on first downs at all, but college stopped the act of stopping the clock on a first down until the last 2 minutes. So you are losing some game there. So this is potentially a way to get a little bit of it back and give somebody another stoppage. So I don't mind because it helps teams that are down come back, and comebacks are exciting. So it doesn't bother me a bit. But again, I've been watching it for my entire life in another version of football.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know how much game you get back. You get a longer game. I don't know if you get more game time. Like it makes the game as long as it adds 15 minutes to the actual.
It doesn't add 15 minutes. They're not even they didn't even add a real commercial. They are using a media timeout for the 2-minute timeout every time, but they didn't add another commercial to the TV contracts. The TV contracts were already written. So if they're using a media, like a TV timeout for that one, it means there's a 30-second timeout somewhere else in the game where they're just, you see the teams talking on the sideline and the broadcast never cuts away.
But I'm saying the game time on the clock doesn't change because of this, does it? Like you said, it added more game. It did. You still lost a lot of game from.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting a ton more game,
yeah.
but you're getting another stoppage, which you would have probably had a few more plays otherwise. So you might get.
But it also might lead to an overtime that we wouldn't have had before, or a comeback that we wouldn't have had before. So that's cool.
AJ in the chat, where are the Colorado guys who were talking all the mess last week? Yeah, an awfully quiet group out of Colorado. Did you see Dion tried not to throw his offensive line under the bus, but I mean, there's nothing you can say. We all saw the game.
Yeah. So. I know Shador did. So I mean, the thing that is tough for me is that was the problem. Yeah. So like, I'm kind of a literal person. I say things sometimes even that I probably shouldn't, but like, it's rude, but it's also true.
Yeah.
So I'm not that offended.
You can't deny what millions of people watched on their television.
Yeah. It's like what happened out there? We couldn't block anybody. Like you're just telling. It's what we couldn't block anybody.
You can't Baghdad Bob it. You can't be like, ignore these tanks behind me.
Yeah, but I also could say, Dion, it's your job specifically to fix that issue.
I think we said that all summer.
So it's not like it's their fault. It's your fault for not fixing it. Like that's the way coaching in college football works.
So let's go from what we expected to a team that maybe we haven't expected to see this out of. And I don't know exactly where they are right now, but we've got a matchup. And Ari mentioned this. So before the weekend, we're going to get some incredible games. We're getting Arizona State and Texas State on a Thursday night. This is, again, the Party School Bowl. This is Arizona State coming from Tempe to San Marcos, two very different types of party schools, but probably two of the best in the country. Does Playboy do the rankings anymore? I don't even know if that exists.
Does Playboy exist anymore?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But if they did, I think they'd have these two very high. This is a fun Thursday night game. We knew that Texas State was going to be pretty good with Jordan McLeod coming in. He was the reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year, and then he comes into an offense that was already pretty good last year with TJ Finley running it. GJ Kenny is one of the best young coaches in college football. Well, Kenny Dillingham also might be one of the best young coaches in college football. We talked to him a lot when he was at Florida State, when he was at Oregon. He goes to Arizona State. It's a pretty tough situation he inherits. And they were not good last year. They were picked to finish last in the Big 12 this year. I think they might be quite a bit better than we thought. I realized they beat Mississippi State, which is, first-year coach. They just flipped their roster. But they've been good. Cody Belair, our national scout, has been high on Sam Leavitt since he was at Michigan State.
Yeah. And Cody knows his stuff, too. Here's the thing. What do we know about Mississippi State? We know that even in down years, which this is one, right? I mean, there's no bones. It's not like they went in and just.
Yeah, I think Jeff Lebby would even admit that. Like, he's doing the best he can.
But even when Mississippi State is down,
they have athletes.
They have a lot of athletes. I think people look at Mississippi State and they go, oh, well, that's the cellar dweller of the SEC. Well, the cellar dweller of the SEC might be one of the most talented teams in the new Big 12. And that's
talking about from a raw talent.
From just a raw talent standpoint. So for Arizona State, I know the game only got decided by 7 points there at the end, but they were up 27-3. And we're talking about an Arizona State program, Andy, that didn't really put it on a lot of other power conference opponents just in the last 3 years in general.
No.
So like the thing that we've been doing a lot, not me and you, but just in college football, I wrote a Dylan Raiola column on 3 this morning, and everyone's like, well, Colorado stinks. It's like, I cannot stand this constant dismissal of when one team looks much better than the other of the opponent.
Right. Colorado looked much better than Nebraska last year.
Yeah, I was like, last year, Colorado turned them over like 100 times, and they had a million penalties, and they lost. And they threw for 400 yards. Like, yes, I know that Colorado isn't going to win the national title. I don't mean to get off onto that tangent, but like Arizona State beating up on for most of the game an SEC opponent with dudes on their roster is a real improvement.
It's a massive leap forward from last year. Massive leap forward. So Kenny Dillingham, the only coach in America who can do the worm, as far as I know. He's spectacular at it. Does it on the official visits. He's going to San Marcos. This is going to be a great Thursday night game. I think this will be great theater. Now, the worry here is that Arizona State just comes in and out talents them, but I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. Like, I remember watching Texas State Baylor last year, and we had GJ on the show right after that game, and he said, look, we went in the portal, and we feel like we got roster talent that stacks up with Big 12 teams, which you saw them beat a Big 12 team last year in Baylor. They crushed UTSA over the weekend.
Yeah.
Crushed them. Like, and this was supposed to be a good game. It was a good game last year. Obviously, UTSA doesn't have Frank Harris anymore. Clearly, that's making a big difference. But the fact that Texas State just hammered them like that is, I'm telling you, this is going to be a great Thursday night game. And, we don't have good Thursday night games anymore. Really, since the NFL came back to Thursday nights, college has abandoned it for the most part. But this will be a fun one.
Yeah, and the spread of 1.5 is kind of I think it dangles a little bit. If you look at the total there, I think this might be like a 35-35.
Yeah, I think the over hits in this game. And remember, short prep for both teams. So, like, if you're trying to diagnose these offenses, you don't have a lot of time to do it.
Yeah, and you have two really important pieces. And I don't know if his name's been said on his show, but Cam Scatterbo.
Cam Scatterbo is
really,
awesome.
really good player.
Yeah.
And they made him really good in the video game too. But going on the road to, I guess, a place that you say gets a little wilder maybe than Tempe. I don't know.
Well, the parties, in the bars, the stadium's going to be hopping.
I'm talking about Mill Ave here, pal. Like, I'm not talking football.
Yeah.
I'm talking about football.
Well, like, I'll tell you this. Before GJ got the job, this is after Jake Spavital got fired. I was talking to somebody, and they said, when are people going to understand that you can never win there because all the players are going to want to do is party once they get there? Well, GJ's proven that that's not true. Like, took him to a bowl game, won a bowl game last year, and now they are definitely in the mix. They're going to be in the mix for the Sun Belt title this year. So, yeah, the party is going to be raging in the bars, possibly in the stadium. But if you really want to throw a big party, you got to win this game. So, you know what? I'm going to take the party. Like, if Texas State wins, I don't even know if they have classes on Friday because this is that good of a party school. But if Texas State wins, they better cancel classes on Friday. Like, everybody's tubing Friday. It's still going to be hot. The water's going to be perfect. Texas State wins. I'm getting a 1.5 anyway. Texas State money line. I'm just going Texas State money line. Greatest party in the world on Friday in San Marcos, Texas.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be taking the bait here because this spread is kind of flirting with you a little bit. I just think
showing a little leg.
Arizona State, from the games that I've watched this year, looks very much improved. And I like their running back quarterback combination. I think that it's going to be a high scoring game. But I think Arizona State at the end is probably going to win and cover. But how about this? I'll take ASU. You take Texas.
Are we betting
State,
on this?
And whoever loses has to drink a handle of vodka.
No, I'm gonna stop you right there. We are not going to encourage that sort of behavior. If I were 19, I would have said yes, and we would have had a trip to the hospital. But no, kids, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
I have teenagers, Ari.
Yeah.
I have to be the responsible dad now. Unfortunately,
it's funny enough
don't do
because
that
bet's actually tamer than some of the challenges that we've been getting about what they would do if their teams won and lost. So,
yeah. Do we have the? I sent this to you guys over the weekend, but I don't think producer River has the tweet ready. But I'm going to read it to you anyway. This is something that someone sent in January. So he goes by Mr. Meep on Twitter. He sent this in January. It was on January 9th, 2024 at 12:19 p.m. He said, if Texas State beats UTSA in 2024, I will post a video of me tasing my nuts. So, Mr. Meep, we are offering you a forum if you would like to pay off your bet because you lost in hilarious fashion. Like, they got destroyed. So get your taser and your camera. Now, I would say
we'll bring the camera, Andy. We've got a good camera, but he has to look away from the camera while he's doing it.
No, we're going to do it from behind.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to show the actual, like, it's not a lightning bolt, but the bolt of electricity hitting skin, hitting scrotal skin. We're going to show up from behind and this part.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you've all kind of seen The Hangover, right? You know,
yes.
It'll be kind
there
of
it
like
is.
that. There it is. The Texas guys. I know you love your sport, and I know that you're confident in your teams. Quit doing it.
I love
or keep doing it.
First comment to this guy in January. This is before anybody knew that Texas State would win this game. Seriously, dude, nobody wants that. It's just a football game.
Yeah. Well, we're looking for viewers. We want the show to be funny. We want the show to be fun and lively. Like, I don't know if there's anything I can.
So yeah,
do or
we're not
say.
drinking a full handle of vodka, but yeah, if you would like to come on and tase some of your body parts, then
come on.
Then we're not going to stop you. Maybe we will. Could we get in trouble for that?
Which one is more physically dangerous? The vodka, you think?
I think the vodka. I think they're both very dangerous. I mean, I don't know if
Yeah.
Mr. Meep has already had children and if
Yeah.
he's worried about doing that again because you maybe can't.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure that out. I'm not a doctor, as you guys well know. Neither of us are mathematicians either. But I got Texas State money line. Ari's taking Arizona State to cover. Love it. By the way, before we get to any more picks, Brian Goodman posts this in the chat, and this is one of those things that's true, but when you say it out loud, sounds incredible. Indiana is favored in the Rose Bowl. Now, they're favored in the Rose Bowl against a rebuilding UCLA team in a UCLA home game that is also a Big Ten game. All of this sounds very strange to say. But yes, Indiana is favored in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that. Sentences you never thought you'd say in your life.
And if you actually say it the way it sounds one day, then good on you, Indiana.
All right. Before we get to our next game, we're going to talk about Game Time, because if you want to go to any of these games this week, if you want to go to San Marcos and take in the great Party School Bowl on Thursday night, if you want to go to the MLS Stadium in Kansas City to see UNLV Kansas on Friday night, that's going to be a blast. But you want to go to Madison, see Alabama, and Wisconsin, you want to go to Columbia, either one, to see LSU South Carolina or to see Boston College, Missouri, Game Time has receipts. They have tons of tickets for every game, last-minute tickets, no problem. Whatever game you want, they got it, plus concerts, plus comedy shows, you name it, they got it. And if you use the code STAPLES, you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So especially when you're using Game Time now, they've got a new feature called GT Picks, and you use that feature. You pick your game, you click the GT Picks button, and it'll show you the best tickets relative to market value. So the best seat you can get for your money. And they got some great seats. We'll see you at Camp Randall. So buy those tickets on Game Time. Come see us at Camp Randall on Saturday. Use code Staples, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right. I mentioned UNLV at Kansas, but it's not actually at Kansas because the stadium in Lawrence is under renovation. So Kansas is going to play their Big 12 games at Arrowhead this year, but they're playing this game at Sporting KC Stadium. So it's going to be a very intimate environment for what should be an incredibly fun football game.
Yeah, this college football is just like between Northwestern Stadium and this stadium. It's just the only sport that's this popular and this exciting that can be found in venues like that. So totally another charming aspect of this. And, frankly, a little disappointed in how Kansas played against Illinois.
Yeah, they did not look good.
It wasn't just that they lost. It was kind of how they lost. They were driving late in the game, I think, to go up by 2 scores, and they had some pretty bad turnovers. And, UNLV is less than a touchdown favorite right now, which means that maybe Kansas is coming back down to earth a little bit in terms of like what we anticipated them to be offensively and what they actually are. So also too, we are in the era now where snobs like me who don't care about G5 have to care about G5. This is a very important game for the playoff.
Well, UNLV, I would argue, has the best win of a G5 team so far, where they went to Houston and dominated. They won 27-7. And if you take that and then look at what Houston did in Norman against Oklahoma, where they, maybe should have won the game. It's a big win. Well, Northern Illinois has the biggest win so far, the G5.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Apologies, Northern Illinois. But, we talk about Boise State went to Oregon, but they lost. So I don't know, does it count? Does Boise State's almost win count? Well, it doesn't matter with UNLV because they'll play. We'll figure it out. Boise State and UNLV will play, and they may play twice.
This is going to come to a head because this will all play itself on the field. When it's going to come to a head is at the end of the year when you have Boise State with a 1 loss potentially in this made up fake scenario, and you're facing a Liberty team that hasn't lost. Like, that's what we're gonna.
Yeah. Although Liberty struggled with New Mexico State.
Yes.
But so UNLV is interesting because we've talked about the go-go offense. We've had Brennan Marion on the show. The other thing to remember with them is Barry Odom is their head coach. Their defense is going to be good and better, probably better than what their talent would suggest they should be able to do. And this is going to be a big challenge for that defense because they are playing against Jalen Daniels. If you've played as Devin Neal in the video game, you know he's pretty awesome.
You mean Barry Sanders?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very excited about this. We got to see Matthew Sluka, the Holy Cross transfer.
Yep.
At UNLV at quarterback. But this is going to be a fun game. Again, this is Friday night. Such a good game. I am taking UNLV to cover here. I don't know if I can take them outright. Like Texas State with the 1.5 point spread, I was fine taking outright. UNLV, though, I will take your 6.5 points if you will give them to me, because if the defense is as good as they were week 1, now Utah Tech didn't show us anything, but if the defense is as good as they were week 1, then they will probably do to Kansas what Illinois did to Kansas defensively.
Yeah, I mean, if you had UNLV as your top
as number 12 as the number 12 seed in the playoff in bracketology.
I was actually like looking at this last night because I was thinking about what you did, because I put Boise still, even though
they'll play. They'll figure it out in the Mountain West.
But I'm looking at UNLV, and they have a really big opportunity against Core 4. Is that what we're saying now?
Yeah, we're calling them Core 4, yeah.
Conference teams, and I don't know how much credit you get as Houston is still transitioning.
Syracuse coming to Vegas.
But they're playing Syracuse at home on October 4th. So if UNLV is able to win this game and then somehow is able to beat Syracuse, I think that's about as good of a resume as a team.
But they still have to win the Mountain West. Like, they got to get past Boise State in the Mountain West.
But if they do those things and then beat Boise, it's like debate over. Like, they have a more than good enough schedule to impress whoever they need to impress in order to get that 12 seed. So I think you actually, now that I'm looking at it, we're probably right in where you put them this week. Obviously, we don't know how
we'll see what happens,
play out, but you were probably right on that. I'm going to take UNLV also. I don't know if Kansas just had a rough go of it at Illinois, or if Illinois, because, Brett Bielema's got a knack of making tough Big Ten teams. But UNLV, I think, is got a pretty good defense, and I think can score enough on this Jayhawks defense to win this football game. I'm taking them with the points. I'm not brave, but I think they could win. Yeah.
This is going to be so much fun. And so that's a Friday night game. We're going to get to another great Friday night game. But the other good thing about having these early week good games, the Thursday, Friday night games that are fun, is you're going to be able to play PrizePicks college football earlier. Now, you could play PrizePicks anytime you want, because they've got the NFL, they've got the WNBA, they've got darts, they've got esports, you name it. But the board is going to be stacked for college football early in the week, and you can start having some fun with college football on PrizePicks. So you play $5, you get $50 instantly if you use the code Staples. PrizePicks is the most fun daily fantasy game in the world. You're playing against the number. There's going to be a total number of yards for, let's say, a receiver or a quarterback. So in the game that we're talking about with Kansas and UNLV, Jalen Daniels, they'll be probably, he can throw for more than or fewer than this many yards. He can run for more than or fewer than this many yards, combined rushing and receiving. And you decide, is it going to be more than, is it going to be less than? You pick that square. You pick at least 2 squares. You can pick more than that. And the more you pick, the higher the potential payout. So download that PrizePicks app, use the code Staples, play 5, get 50 instantly. And also, all year or all month long, you play Caleb Williams with the Bears, and as he throws for a yard, you win that square. So he did throw for a yard.
That was actually kind of a close one.
It was close. He threw for a yard. The Bears won. He didn't throw for a lot of yards, but he did throw for a yard. So you're going to get him every week this month as well. So download that PrizePicks app, code Staples, play 5, get 50 instantly. All right.
Andy, I'm just going to say this.
Go ahead.
If Caleb Williams doesn't turn out to be a really, really good NFL quarterback, I'm never discussing whether someone in college is going to be pros ever again.
It's a crapshoot.
I'm just telling you.
It's the ultimate
because he literally went out there, because this is a college football show. If you're an NFL person, most of you guys are. he had a Justin Fields game
right
in his first game.
They won anyway, but yeah,
they won because Will Levis threw an underhanded pass to the other team to give them the win. But it is unbelievable with the amount of talent that he possesses and the amount of talent that Chicago has. Like, if that does not work, Chicago should just blast its stadium into the sun. It's like, come on.
Well, they do want a new stadium, so that might be a way to do it.
Yeah.
All right, let us stay on Friday night with one of the more interesting games in the Big 12 this year, because it's not actually a Big 12 game. So Arizona goes to Kansas State. This game was already scheduled, and when Arizona joined the league, they're like, "Hey, we can't reschedule all of our non-conference games. One of them is against Kansas State, so we can't just get rid of that game, and we can't go get another game." So they are playing this game as a non-conference game, and it could be between two of the best teams in the Big 12. Now, I thought K-State struggled against Tulane. I thought they were very lucky to get out of Tulane with a win. Avery Johnson, so far, I've been driving the bandwagon. I feel like we might have gotten a flat tire on the Avery Johnson bandwagon.
You see the flashes.
Yes.
Like, it's there.
It's
like
there.
It's there. You just want it to turn
on. But
on
it's
all
not
the way.
like with Nico, it's all the way there.
Mm-hmm.
With Avery Johnson, it's not all the way there.
I mean, I thought there was a chance coming into the year that with Avery Johnson, like, he was going to have like a Johnny Manziel season.
Yeah.
Like, I thought like we that was on the table.
Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And it feels like they're not doing a lot of running with him, or it might be that just they're doing read option and teams are keying on Avery Johnson. Like, they're saying, just take Avery, don't let him pull it. And if you're running the read option and they're coming after you, you have to let the back take it. Like, it doesn't work any other way. So maybe that's it. But I don't know that it's going to be as good as I thought it was going to be. That doesn't mean they can't win games. That doesn't mean they can't possibly still win the Big 12. But they're going to be playing against an Arizona team that didn't play last week. The first week, T-Mac averaged 30 yards a catch, 10 catches for 300 yards. Like, K-State's defense had better be ready for this.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the box score because I did not watch this game. All I did see was my entire group chat melting down because I went to Arizona. I don't know if you guys know that. People were really upset because they beat NAU 22-10, and that's supposed to be like a 65-0 type scenario. And I'm looking at the box, and I don't know if I'm just not seeing it here, Andy, but T-Mac caught 2 passes for 11 yards.
T-Mac caught 10 passes for 304 yards. You're looking at the wrong box score.
No, I'm looking at this box score here against
this
NAU.
Okay.
This past game. Yeah. 2 catches for 11 yards. So I don't know if
they're sandbagging.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they took him out early or he got tweaked something. I don't know. But we're looking at an Arizona team that we had a lot of. Had a lot of hopes for. They are not my first 4 out right now. They are my second 4 out. Like, so we're talking about a team that could be in the top 20 this year. And you look at their schedule with what they have on this roster. They have a chance to win a lot of games, but the next 2 weeks for them is going to be critical in finding who they are because they're playing Kansas State. Talk about all-time backfires of non-conference scheduling right now. I mean, you got Kansas State and Utah back to back.
If you lose this game, though, whether you're Kansas State or Arizona, it doesn't hurt you in the conference standing. So at least that's good. Because remember, if you win the Big 12, you're in. So you can lose this game and it doesn't hurt you in any way, shape, or form in terms of the playoff. Because I'm not sure the Big 12 is going to be able to produce an at-large. We'll see, but I think you're going to have to win it outright.
You have 2 teams here, Andy, that have been playing with their food all week or for the fall season. You know, and Kansas State's opponent, Tulane, might be a little bit better than NAU.
Right, because we're going to see Tulane at Oklahoma, and John Summerall is a defensive whiz.
But I think it's, despite the fact that it's not a Big 12 game, a very revelatory game for both places. Yeah. Because Arizona is a very quick team. They have one of the best receivers in the sport. Their quarterback's a really fun quarterback to watch. Like, if Arizona puts it together offensively, like, they can score a lot of points. I think the reason why you see the total at 56.5 is because I think both of these teams, I mean, Kansas State too, it's true for. If Avery Johnson shows up, he could rush for 150 yards. Like, this is a sit down and watch and learn game to me.
Yeah. And so Kansas State's a 7.5 point favorite at home. This is a lot of points.
Yeah. I'm taking Arizona.
Yeah. I'm doing the same thing. I just, if this was a 3-point line, I'm happy taking Kansas State.
Yeah.
But you're going to give me a whole touchdown with a team that I think probably has as good of a chance of winning the game as the other team.
Yeah, two possessions here.
This it feels like the Kentucky South Carolina line from last week, because that was Kentucky by 9.5.
Yeah,
and like nobody predicted what happened in that game, including us. But we were all over South Carolina on that one because the line just looked funky.
If you think a team can win the game,
we
think they can win,
and they get a touchdown,
and they get 2 scores, 7.5. Like, that is a very attractive thing for me. So, like, I saw the spread and I already immediately locked in on U of A. But that said, if the way they've played the first 2 weeks of their season is an indication of who they are, they also can get blown off the field. So you have to be, high alert, especially if Kansas State comes out angry because they almost lost to Tulane. So great. I think that might be, coming into the year, that was one of the top 10 games I was most excited to watch just in general. That this game is the second most interesting, or maybe the most interesting game of the week to me. Is that a big thing to say?
No. I think there's a lot of intrigue all the way down the schedule. And I actually struggled picking the games that we were going to pick today.
Yeah.
Because there are, like, we don't know where the landmines are. Like, I mentioned Oklahoma Tulane. We don't have that on our list to pick, but that's another weird one. Like, that's one that could be strange.
Well, I am going to the Oklahoma Tennessee game in 2 weeks in Norman, and I made the mistake of saying, well, it's probably going to be, or it's going to be 2 4-0 teams with 5-star young quarterbacks. And then I looked at Oklahoma's schedule and I saw Tulane sitting there. I was like, oh God, I shouldn't have just I shouldn't have just assumed that.
It should be 2 4-0 teams, but the way Oklahoma struggled with Houston last week, it is very much in doubt. But yeah, I'm going to take Arizona here. Just, you give me that many points, I will take it. That said, we go to a game with a similar line. I'm not sure I feel the same way about it. LSU at South Carolina. Now, we just talked about how we jumped all over the South Carolina-Kentucky line because we felt like this is a toss-up game and one team is getting 9.5 points. That felt like a no-brainer. So LSU is a 7.5-point favorite on the road at a place where, when they are happy, it is a very difficult place to play. And they are
happy.
very happy after South Carolina dump truck Kentucky. Now, South Carolina was not particularly dominant offensively in that game. There were a bunch of plays where Kentucky basically declined to cover South Carolina's receivers, but South Carolina still only threw for 166 yards. They only ran 50 plays in that game. A lot of that was Kentucky just shooting itself in the foot over and over. So I don't know that we learned anything about South Carolina being a particularly dominant team in a dominant win. It's just that Kentucky was awful. But LSU, we're still not sure about their defense. LSU gave up a couple of long drives to Nichols. Now, they still won the game. But a couple of things that were red flags in that game. They gave a couple of long drives. Now, they actually were pretty good against the run for most of the game, but their secondary is not good. We knew that. We saw that against USC. LSU also struggled to run the ball. Remember, the only time they've run the ball in their first 2 games effectively is when John Emery was running it in the second half of the USC game.
And he's gone.
And he tore his ACL last week, and he's out for the season. So, am I weird? Because even though you're giving South Carolina more than a touchdown here, and we just said all that stuff that we just said, am I weird here for thinking this is a bounce back game for LSU?
Well, I initially said, give me the points, or in my head, like I saw that and I was like, give me the points. Because here's what I think is going to be the game. LSU secondary against Lenora Sellers. Like, are we going to get...
Yeah, how do we feel about Lenora Sellers? Because he was throwing against Kentucky to wide open receivers. And I don't know if it's something that South Carolina was doing to confuse Kentucky's secondary, or if Kentucky's secondary was just making terrible mental mistakes. But like with LSU, we've seen so far this year, like against USC, they left guys open too. But it might be that USC's receivers and Miller Moss were just that good.
Well,
I don't
USC's
know.
receivers and Miller Moss probably are just that
Right,
good.
and they're better than South Carolina's version.
Yeah. But I'm not going to sit here on this couch next to you, my friend, and pick against an undefeated team at home that's going to have a loud crowd.
And has 7.5 points. I know.
No, and against the Rec Specs. Come on.
Oh,
what are we doing?
Rec Specs, that's
like
true.
when you just started the tidal wave of that. I'm not going to pick against them yet. Here's the thing, like LSU in theory should be very, very good this year. Right? Or they should be in theory
not very, very good because we don't know if their defense is any good.
Well, their defense, I think I'm comfortable saying, is much better already than it was a year ago. Because if they were as bad as they were a year ago,
I'm not
USC,
comfortable saying that.
You don't think so? I think
No.
USC would have ran it up to 45, 50 points
We
if they
don't
were.
know with USC yet. Like I'm going to need to see USC against Michigan.
I know for a fact that USC skill position players are elite.
They're very good. Yeah.
We don't. I guess you're right. We don't know.
Now South Carolina
Miller
has a
Moss.
5-star receiver too.
Yeah, I know
Nick Harbor, but
Yeah,
he hasn't
and an Olympian.
done a whole lot. So.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe this will be the day. But I think that coming out of the LSU USC game, I felt much more comfortable about both teams' defenses than. I mean, it couldn't have been worse last year. So, like, I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah.
I think South Carolina is able to score in this game. I think the crowd at home helps. I think that LSU, and when I say very, very good, I don't mean like national title good, but I thought, with Harold Perkins and an improved defense, and if Garrett Nussmeier hit, this could be a 9-10 win team. South Carolina has proven during the Beamer era that they're a tough out at home.
Absolutely.
People care a lot right now.
And when a coach feels like they might be teetering on the brink of something, that's a bad place to go. Like I remember Dan Mullen going there in 2021, and it just, poop rolled downhill real quick.
Yeah.
And that's that. So I'm not saying the LSU people are out on Brian Kelly, but I am saying doubt has begun to creep in.
And if this doesn't go well, Andy, we're going to have a very different discussion. We learned last week that with Marcus Freeman, that sentiment can flip quickly in this sport. So
very quickly. All right. So you are taking South Carolina in this game.
Wouldn't be surprised if South Carolina won, by the way.
No.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm telling you, I'm going against my better instincts. My instinct is all of the things Ari's saying make perfect sense. All the things I just said, I just took Arizona for the same reason in the Arizona-Kansas State game. I took South Carolina last week at Kentucky for this same reason. Don't ask me why I'm going against my gut here. But I just think LSU's going to...
Probably because LSU just has better players.
That may be it.
I think that
I'm going to say LSU covers here, which it's hard to say. Like, I don't like this line at all, but I'm going to say LSU covers.
Yeah, you'll probably be right. It's the ones that you get really confident on that you seem to miss. But like South Carolina, if they win this game, Columbia is going to be wild.
It is. It is going to be absolutely wild. They're going to head to 5 points. They're going to head to the Village Idiot.
Yeah, we have Akron the following week for South Carolina, then a 3-game stretch against Ole Miss, Bama, and Oklahoma. And then after that, they get A&M, and they don't get a reprieve until Vanderbilt in November. So enjoy Akron this
next week
if you beat LSU. But I'm looking at the schedule, and it's just like somebody pissed somebody off in the SEC with that 3-game stretch.
I don't know what Beamer said or did, but they weren't happy about it.
Do you like to picture like a coach's face? Because I do this all the time in my head of like when they first see their schedule.
Oh God, like Billy Napier's face this year.
Like I just picture like the Lane Kiffin play sheet throw call, but like in an angry way.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on.
Oh yeah, like the old Spurrier play sheet toss.
Yeah,
like, where he spikes it.
Yeah,
yeah. It's especially like I think Shane Beamer did that. I think Kirby Smart did that when he saw who they had to play on the road.
Yeah,
I think Billy Napier clearly did that.
Kirby Smart didn't do that. He knows they're better.
No, I don't know.
Kirby Smart, that man.
Do you think Lane Kiffin did throw the play sheet up in celebration when he saw Ole Miss's schedule?
Maybe. I think the schedule was seen before the roster was assembled. I think they saw the schedule and they're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. This is an all-in year.
All right, guys, come on, bring it in. Where's the Brinks truck? Just back it up right over there. Yeah,
right. They did know the schedule.
Yeah.
But at this point last
so here's what we have. Here's who we're playing. Here's what we need.
Yeah.
It's like a loan or some sort of
It's-
financial transaction here to get this thing on the right track.
That's exactly right. All right. Let us talk about the game that we are attending on Saturday, Alabama at Wisconsin. And after week 1, I was like, Ari, did we make a mistake? Did we make a mistake going to this game? Because Alabama looked unstoppable in week 1 against Western Kentucky. Wisconsin has not looked particularly great yet. But Alabama against USF, now, things got considerably better when Alabama brought Pritchett in at right tackle because he was not playing. And remember, Caden Proctor's not playing because he's hurt. So they were without both their starting tackles. And I think this is proof positive of what I've been saying all along. Nobody's deep enough to be injury-proof anymore. Not even Alabama. They were a completely different team against USF. They were struggling. They could have lost to USF if they had not made that change. And they were
Whereas
trying to
5
hold
years
Pritchett
ago,
out
their
'cause he was
third
hurt.
team line would probably all start for USF
Correct.
immediately. So, yeah, are they both playing?
I would assume Pritchett is playing because he played because they needed him to, and they were trying to hold him out, but he was dressed and he played. It sounded from what Kalen DeBoer said that they were trying to get Proctor ready for this.
Okay.
So if they both play, I have no qualms taking Alabama to cover 15.5 on the road.
I mean, we are 2 games in this year together.
But I can't believe we're talking about that with Alabama. Like, if this one guy doesn't play, it changes the pick.
Well, no, it doesn't. I think we've been to 2 games this year, and both times the visiting team has beat the crap out of the home team. So I think
I'm not even talking about the home field advantage. I'm just talking about the
I know, but
Alabama that was in a 2-point or a 1-point game with USF.
Yeah,
might struggle in this game.
I don't think so.
Okay,
I think that Alabama is. I don't know. How much does the USF game tell us about who Alabama is? I guess, from a depth standpoint, that makes
does.
Sense,
because
it didn't last year.
Yeah, but they weren't playing the same starting quarterback last year.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Jalen Milroe started. They built the offense around Jalen Milroe this year.
Yeah, and they were playing like quarterback. Right,
and USF's defense is good. Todd Orlando is a good defensive coordinator who does some things that, especially if it's an offensive line that has not played together much yet, that they might struggle from a communication standpoint, might let some guys go unblocked. But I don't know that it should be that different when you have to go to your backups, except that we know that in the NIL era and the transfer portal era, it's just things are moving more efficiently. And somebody who would have been on the bench at Alabama before, who was capable of starting at some other place, they're now starting at that other place.
Hey, do you know off the top of your head what the final score of the Bama USF game was?
It was 42-16.
Because once they went up and got into the 30s, I stopped paying attention.
They scored on their last 3 possessions. So it's one of those things. If you just looked at the score, you have no idea what actually happened in the game.
Yeah, they were only up by 1 in the beginning of the 4th quarter, and they won 42-16.
And that's when Elijah Pritchett came into the game.
So,
like the line of demarcation is Pritchett showing up. So if Pritchett's playing and Proctor's playing, they're going to annihilate Wisconsin.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to lay the points here. I did say it didn't last year, but then last year they literally almost lost. This year it was in question in the 4th quarter, so maybe that is almost losing.
But the thing is, the talent level goes up. Now, Byron Brown's a really good quarterback for USF.
Yeah, he is.
But USF has talent, but Wisconsin's going to be probably on the aggregate more talented than USF. So,
but we also have to take into account here, Andy, and we haven't said a single thing about Wisconsin, that they played in games that were in question in the second half against Western Michigan, a team that Ohio State just beat like 100-0,
right?
In South Dakota at home. Both of those games were we're not.
They just might not be that good.
They just might not be a very good team this year. So, I'm just going to stick with the trend. I think we bring the blowout with us. I think Alabama
so far, I had a run when I was working at SI. I believe it was 2010, where I saw, I want to say 3 or 4 number 1s in a row go down. Like if you got voted into number 1 in the AP poll and I showed up at your game, you lost. Like it was when South Carolina beat Alabama, Missouri beat Oklahoma. I can't remember. There was one more in there too, 1 or 2 more. But it was like I was the angel of death for the number 1 team. And I think we bring the blowout to the home team, apparently. So if you would like us to help, you should probably pay us to not come to your team's game.
I'm sorry, Oklahoma fans.
That's right. Ari's going. Now, it may only work when we're together, though.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
So,
but Tennessee and Oklahoma in week 4, I'll be there. So,
yeah, it may only work when we're together. We don't know how this works quite yet. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Wisconsin will prove us wrong. But I'm saying if Alabama, even if I'm going to pick it that Alabama covers, I think it's because Alabama will be playing with I don't know if they're fully healthy, but at least fully intact starting offensive line. I don't think Wisconsin's going to be able to hang with them.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. Let us move to Tallahassee. This is a very interesting game. Memphis is coming to Florida State. And if I had told you, Ari, on August 1st, that Memphis would only be a 5.5-point dog in Tallahassee, what would you have told me?
Wow, Memphis is going to be really good this year. Wow,
And
Memphis could be the team that makes the playoff at the G5 spot this year.
Those are all true statements, by the way. Probably.
Yeah.
But
I might have said, oh no, DJ didn't work out.
that
I think that's the layup response.
Exactly. So that's the question. They've had an open date to figure some things out. Florida State 0-2 in ACC play, which is amazing to me that you can be 0-2 in conference play after week 1, but that's what they were. Then they had this week to figure this stuff out. And I just don't know. I don't know how this is going to look, because are they going to change things around? Is Brock Glenn going to get a chance? Is DJ starting and maybe it's a quick hook? Or is it that they've figured some things out and are just better? Or are they the same team that played Boston College and Georgia Tech, in which case I think they might lose to Memphis?
You look at the first 2 games on Florida State's schedule, and the things that cause them to lose, I don't know, are repairable in a bye week or an open week. Like, what do you fix? Like,
right. And
what's the plan?
Exactly. And, we talked about their defensive line. Remember, you had the people saying they were the best defensive line in the country going into the Georgia Tech game, and clearly they weren't. We knew they weren't as deep on the D-line as last year. I think the problem is that not only are they not as deep, but the guys who are starters have not been as good. But then also, because they're not as deep, those guys get worn out as the game goes on. You saw Boston College, and I think Bill O'Brien, having been an NFL head coach, I think it helps that he understood to do this. Like, because NFL head coaches understand you just attack the weak point over and over and over again, and that's your best bet. He didn't try to get cute. They just kept running the ball and running the ball and running the ball, knowing that Florida State's D-line would just completely wear out and collapse by the end of the game, which it did. Memphis, they can run it, but Seth Hennigan is a lot better thrower of the football than Thomas Castellanos. So Memphis is going to try to throw it around a little bit, but I'll be curious to see, do they stick with the run and just keep pounding even as the throw game, if the throw game is working, do they keep pounding? Because that's how you win in the second half against Florida State. I realize a small sample size, but we've seen it both times with quarterbacks who probably aren't as good at throwing the ball as Seth Hennigan. Now, he can't run like the 2 they've seen.
Yeah.
But
and those 2 runners really hurt them.
Yeah, Haynes King and Thomas Castellanos did hurt them. So maybe it's just not having the fear of a running quarterback, but nothing Florida State has done this year has given me any confidence in it.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is you're going to give another team that's what we think is pretty good points. If you're Florida State, you're not giving anybody. They can't get points. Who are you giving points to?
Exactly. So
I'm taking Memphis.
I'm also taking Memphis, which probably means Florida State's going to win by 20.
Yeah, well, I took App State. It's one of those games, I think, sometimes too. And I don't know if I'm there yet, because I'm not. Like, Clemson's response to what happened to Georgia against Georgia in week 1 is what teams that are going to win 10 games might do.
Mm-hmm.
But like, Florida State is just bad. Like, I'm not waiting for Florida State to wake up and rattle off 8 wins in a row. Like, I'm past that. They're just not a good football
team. The problem is I've seen this before under Norvell when they lost to Notre Dame and then lost to Jacksonville State. And like they had a horrible start to that year, but then they got better and better as the season went on. Like I know he's capable of pulling a team out of something like this. So that's where there's a lingering doubt in my mind that they're just bad. I don't know that they're just bad, but
I think they have a quarterback issue, and I don't know that that's something you can fix unless you go to somebody else. And I'm not sure they're in a
the
position
thing is,
to.
like, I don't know how confident they are in Brock Glenn. I think this time last year, if you'd asked people in Tallahassee, they said, yeah, Brock Glenn's going to be the successor to Jordan Travis. This was before Jordan Travis got hurt. I think you saw Brock Glenn in the ACC championship and in the Orange Bowl, and now that confidence has eroded somewhat. So they're not as quick to just say, well, DJ's not working out. But I will say this. If the reason they're not contemplating a quarterback change, or they're not serious about making a quarterback change, is because they're worried about how much money they're paying DJ, or that because they brought him in, they have to, don't do that. Your job's to win games. Yeah. Whatever you think is going to win you the most games, do that. Now, it might be that they don't feel like Brock Glenn's better. And if that's the case, then you're in big trouble. So, all right. Well, we're both taking Memphis in that game. Whoo, boy. All right. Interesting one in Columbia, Missouri. Boston College, who we were just talking about, is a 16.5-point underdog to a Missouri team that, yes, the level of competition has not been great, but they have not given up a single point yet. And I was worried about their defense coming into the season because they lost some really great players and they lost their defensive coordinator. I was not worried at all about their offense because they brought back so many players. They went and got a good offensive lineman from Oklahoma. They went and got a couple of good running backs out of the transfer portal. That part I wasn't worried about. The defense was the question mark. So far, 0 points. And you can say what you want about who they've played. I get it. It's not the strongest schedule so far. They will play a better team this week. They will play a team that is 2-0. They will play a team that has already gone on the road in the ACC and won. They will play a mobile quarterback. We just talked about Thomas Castellanos. So does Missouri keep this up? Is Missouri just going to blow out inferior teams?
I have them in the playoff right now.
I do too.
So I think so. Now, the question that you have after watching BC beat Florida State is, it's possible that BC just isn't like a dysfunctional, terrible team. Like they could be.
Oh no, BC could be pretty good.
A pretty good football team.
We've seen Bill O'Brien do this. Like when he took over at Penn State, they had all sorts of turmoil. They still had some pretty good players, but like Matt McGloin was the starting quarterback, former walk-on, and he made Matt McGloin a very serviceable Big Ten quarterback. And so Thomas Castellanos, who has a lot of good traits, very good runner, can keep plays alive. Like I think Bill O'Brien can make him a pretty good quarterback. And you saw, like I just said, we were talking about Florida State, when Bill O'Brien figures out what's working, he keeps doing it. So if you can get something working, my question is, will Boston College be able to get anything working against this Missouri team?
I think they will be able to score, but I also think that Missouri might score
a lot.
Yeah. Like the number on this game that I really like is the over of the 54.5.
Yeah, I think that could be an easy over.
This could be one of those Luther Burden games. So, I think that if I had to pick a side right now, I might take BC's points.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Missouri could win by 2 scores, and it might be, you know what? I'm changing my mind.
I
think that
you're taking
take the over, and I'm going to lay the 16.5.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, that's where I was going with this, because I do realize that there are times when a team has only played lesser competition where they get hit with their first power conference opponent and look like a completely different team. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, Mizzou is a legitimate SEC contender this year.
I think Missouri is going to look like they've looked. They probably won't blow them out by as many points as they blew out the first couple of teams. Like, it's not going to be Murray State, obviously, but I do think they're going to cover here.
This could be like a 42-20-ish type game.
Yeah. I think Missouri covers, and I'm excited to see Missouri the rest of the way, because again, my questions were about the defense, and if the defense shuts down Castellanos and Boston College this week, then that's another good sign as Missouri goes into a schedule that, as we've talked about, is pretty advantageous as SEC schedules go.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Missouri got a gift from the schedule ferry. Like
That's
from
exactly
Meet
right.
the Parents. Like, I've got to go to the bathroom ferry. They're in a pretty good position.
All right, we'll stay in the SEC.
I'm just gonna lay down and let you cook on this one. It's your time to shine, buddy. Make me proud.
No, yeah. This is why we don't do this on a couch normally. We'll stay in the SEC. Texas A&M is a 3.5-point favorite at Florida. You and I did a video on Sunday night in just begging Billy Napier to start DJ Lagway. We don't yet know what's going to happen. I have a sense that maybe it's going to be DJ Lagway in this game, and I think that gives Florida a better chance, but I don't know how much of a chance because, again, he played great against Samford, but he played great against Samford. So he played against Miami, and he did lead them on a touchdown drive against
He played
Miami.
great.
Yeah.
Period.
He's a very good quarterback. Like, he's accurate. He can throw the ball downfield with a flick of his wrist, and he can hit people in stride. These are things that haven't been happening at Florida. Even with Anthony Richardson, who was obviously very athletically gifted, had a great arm, went number 4 in the draft. But Anthony Richardson was not the most accurate quarterback.
Andy, do you know why you have a sense that it's going to be DJ, even though there's been
Because
no
he's their best
information?
chance to win.
Because it's the only thing that makes sense. We did a video for 10 minutes about this topic. I suggest you go watch it. It was my favorite one that we shot yesterday. There is no identifiable reason or explanation for why you would put Graham Mertz out there.
No.
It's not. I don't think he gives you a better chance to win. I really don't. And I don't know if you're a person.
He doesn't give Billy Napier a chance to save his job. DJ gives
What does
Billy Napier a chance to save his job.
This is the question. What does Billy Napier gain by putting Graham Mertz out there?
You're right. Nothing.
So why would he do it?
So
yeah,
you throw DJ out there. Now, there is going to be obviously an upgrade in competition. Texas A&M's defensive line is really good. My question in this game is, what does Texas A&M's offense do? Because coming out of the Notre Dame game, and I remember I wrote this in Dear Andy last week, I said Notre Dame's defense may make every quarterback look terrible because the Texas A&M fans were worried about Connor Wigman. And now I'm not so sure. Now, Notre Dame's defense didn't play that badly against NIU. Like that, they weren't the cause of the loss. The offense was. But I do wonder, I was thinking, that defense is so good. That's why Texas A&M couldn't score. They'll score a bunch on Florida's defense, but maybe not. I'm not so sure now.
Yeah. I mean, I really do think it's kind of hard to make this pick if we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. So am I allowed to just say A&M if Mertz plays and Florida if DJ plays?
That won't go well on the graphic. I think you gotta make you're gonna have to make multiple picks. You're gonna have to pick which quarterback you think is gonna start and then pick the game.
I think Graham Mertz is going to start.
You do?
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm taking Texas A&M either way. Like, I'm not in a position. Florida's getting points. You know what? Give me Florida. DJ Lagway is going to play. And if I'm wrong and it's because Graham Mertz played, then you know what, Billy? That's your fault. Like, I'm not.
All right. So here's my issue here. If Florida's defense is as bad as we thought against Miami, it may not matter. That's the problem. Because I just remember that first Cam Ward drop back and seeing Florida's defensive line just get absolutely erased by Miami's offensive line. I'm like, oh God, this is going to be every play. Like, unless they've got some exotic blitz package that can fool them, they're going to get physically dominated up front. And that's exactly what happened. Now, A&M is on its backup center, but he did start 8 games at center for Utah last year. So it's not like he's without experience at this level. He actually has experience beating Florida. So I'm going to take Texas A&M regardless of who Florida starts. Which, with the 3.5 points, it's like,
It's like
I was kind of hoping this would be a 1-point spread. And you could just pick the team you think's going to win.
You don't ever feel comfortable giving another team points in this matchup, but I would never play this game in real life.
No, because there's too many unknowns, and it doesn't behoove Billy Napier to announce who's going to play. Now, here's an interesting thought, because remember Graham Mertz missed last week because of a concussion. Now we'll find out, as Billy Napier is going to talk in about an hour and a half, if he says Graham Mertz is good to go to clear to practice, all that, then it doesn't come into play. If we don't hear that today, then Wednesday night becomes interesting because this will be the first time either of these two teams have had to submit to the SEC injury availability report. So if somebody's out, we're going to find out Wednesday night.
Exciting.
It is. It's very interesting.
I know it's really interesting and very pertinent to whether you want to play this game.
Well, and it's interesting now because they release lines on Sunday.
Yeah,
it's going to change. Maybe not in this game, but that's going to change some lines pretty drastically throughout the year. So that's another factor here. But yeah, so you're gonna take Florida to cover. I'm gonna take Texas A&M to cover.
You know what? I hate both sides.
Losing faith here.
I hate both sides. You know what? It looks better on the graphic when we're against each other anyway, so I'll stick with Florida, but this is the game that I feel the least good about.
I don't blame you. There's nothing, because DJ's really good. And there's a chance that he just elevates them so much. And then A&M's not good. Like Jeffrey in the chat says, Texas A&M lost at home to Notre Dame. Are you forgetting how bad Texas A&M is? I don't think Texas A&M is bad.
I also don't play the transitive property game in college football. The Notre Dame team that beat them played a very good football game. So, I don't think that you just absorb what happened against NIU and go, well, A&M is worse than NIU. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
Some teams show up, play good games, are motivated, and elevate.
Right, and sometimes they play down,
and then it's not the way it works. Yeah. So,
if A&M's offense had been horrific against McNeese,
I know people
then maybe
I know people are down on Wegman, but the thing that scares me the most about this game is the amount of time that we saw Cam Ward get back there.
Yes,
if Wegman has a time like that to operate back there, Florida is not going to win.
Yeah, that's the issue for me, because in the SEC it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is if both of your lines are not good.
Right.
And I think with Florida, the offensive and defensive lines are a big question mark. Now, it could just be that Miami's great on both lines of scrimmage, and that's why it looked the way it looked. But I suspect against other SEC teams where most of them have pretty good players on both lines of scrimmage, you're going to have the same problem. So that's why I'm going with A&M in this game. We shall see. Oh, Levi in the chat asks us for an Oregon State pick. Well, guess what? That's what we're going to right now.
Yeah, that's
the Civil War, baby.
Little ESP there.
Corvallis.
This Oregon team is going to make me keel over, Andy. I have no idea. So, everyone is down on Oregon right now, right?
Yes, very highly down.
I always get uncomfortable when a team that has this many good players stinks or isn't very good. I don't think that Oregon stinks.
Probably not, no.
I think that Dylan Gabriel took a massive step forward confidence-wise probably in that game because he made some plays there at the end of the fourth quarter.
But they also had 2 special teams touchdowns that saved their bacon. How often can you count on 2 special teams touchdowns?
Ask Iowa. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Very often, apparently. No, I'm kidding. You're right. No, they were the worst team that day. Is that fair to say against Boise?
I would say so. I think they're very lucky that ball bounced the way it did when he dropped it early.
Mm-hmm.
It was very smart that a teammate grabbed it, but they lose if that bounces differently.
Yeah,
they lose.
I'm on high alert too for Boise being a really good football team. So if you play,
Ashton Genty is one of the best players in the country.
So if you play a close game against a really good team at home, I think that's more excusable than barely beating a team that has no business competing physically with you.
Oh, it was one special teams touchdown.
And there was a fumble recovery too.
Yeah. Matt in the chat pointing that out.
2 non-offensive touchdowns, however you want to slice it's the same kind of concept that you're going for there. So, but Oregon State is, I believe, 2-0. They covered the spread on Saturday.
They shut out San Diego State. Now, San Diego State playing a freshman quarterback, first-year coach. But that said, that's a pretty impressive win.
Yeah.
So my question is, Is the Oregon team we've seen the first 2 weeks the team? Is that who they are? Because if it is,
think so.
if it is, there's no chance they will win the Big Ten. None.
I think Oregon's going to bounce back this week. And
Okay.
I know it's a close rivalry game. I know that it's not the same Pac-12 situation that it's been in the past. But I am on high alert for that Oregon 56-20 win over somebody. Like
right.
It's
you
going
feel
to
like
happen.
it's going to happen
Like,
at some point.
So I think that it's going to potentially happen this week. I think Oregon State's a little bit better than people give them credit for and have been. But new coach, new quarterback, they're at home, so that helps. Right?
I also it's hard to gauge how much emotions play into these sorts of things.
Yeah.
But I would venture that this is a very different game for the Oregon players than it is for the Oregon State players. That this is a very, very, very important game for the Oregon State players because they will be whipped in, like Trent Bray will whip them into a frenzy saying, these people left you behind. This is why you're in a 2-team conference. This is why you're in the 2-pack. And they just went off to greener pastures and didn't care.
That's how my mom calls Tupac, by the way.
2-pack?
Yeah.
He's not here to defend himself, so
he's not.
The hologram might be able to. But no, I mean, Oregon State is going to be very, very angry. They're going to want to prove a point. The crowd will be as much of a factor as it can possibly be because Oregon State fans are probably even angrier than Oregon State players and coaches about all this. But my question is, how much does that actually factor in? How much does that matter?
Yeah.
But I will say they're playing against a team that has looked lackadaisical against teams it was supposed to beat.
Yeah.
And you're getting 13.5 points. You're getting almost 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I still like Oregon here. I think the crowd becomes a factor if the game is close early. I think that Oregon's going to bounce back. And if they don't, and they don't cover the spread, and we're going 3 weeks,
you're changing how you feel about Oregon.
Like it's like hard for me to, but like when a team is trying to tell you who they are, you got to listen to them eventually. You know what I mean? And it's possible that that's who they are. So I'm not there yet. I think that they have too many good players. There were some missed throws in the second half to Evan Stewart, who was open. I mean, they get open, and there's like explosiveness there.
Yeah, I was Jeff Schwartz, former Oregon Duck, played in the NFL for a long time on the offensive line. He did a film breakdown of it, and his concerns were both on the offensive and defensive lines, just a lot of misassignments, a lot of guys getting beat in individual, matchups that shouldn't be happening because they have better players. And that's troubling. So, Goat Dog, is the 2-pack a Power 4 or a G5? We need our answer. It's neither. It's neither because we can't. There's 10 conferences if we call it one of those. So it either have to be a Power 5 or a group of 6. It's nothing. It's two teams. So it is a I don't know, an autonomous unit for mid-mall snacking. Isn't that what they call the food court in Mallrats? So that's what it is. Yeah, there's no way to quantify it at this point. But so you're taking Oregon to cover. I will take Oregon State to cover. I think Oregon's going to win the game, but I think again they're going to fart around because so far they've not proven that they aren't a team that farts around.
Yeah. Well, nothing happens for the first time until it happens. I'm expecting.
We've talked about that all year.
Yeah,
but I think they continue to fart around.
Okay.
Let us move to Lexington. Georgia is a 24.5-point favorite against Kentucky. How often is an SEC team favored by this much over a non-Vanderbilt opponent in a conference game? It's very rare.
Andy, how high would you go before you would take Kentucky here?
32.
Yeah, I would be in the 30s somewhere. I think Georgia. Look at the total and look at the spread.
Yeah,
this is going to be like
the total's 45.5,
48 to 10 type scenario here.
Kentucky's offense was so bad against South Carolina.
I don't know how you. It's a really, really bad time to have an offensive crisis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Georgia is so much better than South Carolina.
Because Georgia beats them by more than 24 most of the time when Kentucky is good.
Right.
Like
this is a lot of times you see Kentucky having a good year. Now, this game is much earlier in the season than Kentucky, Georgia usually is. But you see Kentucky having a good year. They'd be like 5-0. They go play Georgia, and then they get beat, 38-10. This is a bad Kentucky team. I realize it's one game, and they actually only played a game and a half because the Southern Miss game got called. I don't know that I need to see more than what we saw on Saturday.
Just give me Georgia. Let's, you know what? The breakdown of this game is not as interesting as the post game would be if Kentucky actually is good. But I think that Georgia is better than Kentucky in every single way.
All those existential questions that we would have, if Kentucky had beaten South Carolina and then gone into this game and gotten beaten by 25, we would have been asking all those Mark Stoops existential questions. We're not asking that now. We know Kentucky fans are out on Mark Stoops. I read the KSR board right after that game. They're done, which I said the flirtation with Texas A&M was going to cause them to lose faith faster in him. But if the Texas A&M thing had never happened, that game still would have done the same thing.
Yeah. It's just an unfortunate turn of events here. And if Kentucky is able to play this to a 2-score game and show some life, then maybe you get some confidence back. But I think Georgia's just going to maul them.
So Scott asked the question, do you think Kentucky lost as bad as they did to the Gamecocks because of the look ahead? I don't. I don't think they were looking ahead past South Carolina, because when you have a schedule as hard as Kentucky's, and South Carolina is one of the conference games that you think you can win or you think you should win, you don't look past them. I don't think they were looking past South Carolina at all. I think they just might not be very good. This particular mix of players might not work well together.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm taking Georgia. It's a lot of points. Don't care. Taking Georgia. Now, this next game has a huge spread. I don't care about spread. We always pick the Iowa total. Troy at Iowa, 38.5. Don't care that Iowa's a 22.5 point favorite. Doesn't matter. 38.5 is the number we're focusing on here, because Ari, my confidence was shaken. My world was shaken when Iowa and Iowa State went over the total.
Yeah, we're in a new world where we have to consider that Iowa is going to give up some points.
Yeah.
This isn't just can Iowa score 40? This is can Troy score 14?
Right. And we do think Iowa's a little bit better on offense.
I like the over here.
I do too.
38.
What world are we living in?
The world where 38 points is not a lot in a college football game. That last year we were in
Banana Iowa game, Ari.
Yeah, I know. Last year was Banana Land. Wasn't there a game that was in the low 20s last year? Last year was a statistical anomaly. That's not supposed to happen. If Troy scores 10 points, this should get there.
I think so too.
It should. And unless you think Iowa's going to win.
I can't believe I'm saying this.
If this game goes
I've never confidently picked, we've been picking the Iowa total for 2 years now. I've never confidently picked the Iowa over.
Yeah. Well, last week it was 36.5 and it was at 36 for the last 8 minutes of the game. And then the game-winning field goal put it over.
But you knew it was going to happen. The second Rocco Becht hit the 75-yard touchdown pass, you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah,
it's going over.
Well, yeah, because usually there aren't touchdowns that happen that quickly in that game. Well, sometimes Iowa scores on defense.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it's a pick six, but yeah. So I think we are in a new world. We're through the looking glass here. That's okay. Ari's here at On 3. The world has changed. Life is good. Tomorrow, very special guest, Ohio State coach Ryan Day will join us. Talk Buckeyes. And Ari.
And Jeremiah Smith, hopefully. That's all I want to talk to him about.
Well, that guy is pretty good. Yeah, lots of questions. We'll glaze Jeremiah Smith plenty. Don't you worry.
I also want to ask him, and I don't know if I should. You'll tell me if I should or not.
Okay. Let's have the people tell us.
Ohio State was, I don't remember what the score was. I think it was 40. Oh, it was 42-0.
Mm-hmm.
And they were facing a 4th down and 3 with their freshman Julian Sand in the game.
Yeah.
From their own 45.
Mm-hmm.
And there was only a few minutes left.
It was just an analytics go for it call. If you're looking regardless of game situation. Yeah.
Okay. No, they're at their own 40 something.
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan Day not only goes for it, but it's some play action, I believe, or I can't remember what the play was, but it was a pass play where he tricked the entire defense into thinking they were running it, and then he threw it for a touchdown.
You definitely should ask him that, and also ask him.
I didn't get to the question
Okay,
yet.
go-
The question is, did you know what the total of the game was? And did you know that would put it over? Because Ryan Day has a very good football team. They are my pick at the moment to win the national championship this year based on what they've looked like and who they have. But there are a lot of people in the city that we're in right now, which is Columbus, Ohio, that are out on him.
Yeah.
You know how you get people back without beating Michigan yet? On the way to the Michigan game? Cover the spreads and beat the overs, baby.
I don't know if you should ask him that. You could. I know what he's going to answer if you ask him.
I want to know if he knew the total.
I guarantee we didn't know. Guarantee. Did Chip Kelly know the total though?
Yeah, we'll ask somebody about someone in that building knew the total.
Right.
Also, if I were a head coach and I'm never going to be one, and I don't know if this is going to stop me from being one day, I would always know the spread and total. You know who knows? Lane Kiffin always knows.
He acknowledges them at least. Oh my God.
Well, you got a stadium full of people in a gambling legal state that are hitting your team in the over. Your fans are, I guarantee you there's a correlation between.
Just throw them a little red meat.
A little sentiment.
It has nothing to do with the freshman quarterback who at some point may have to be your guy if your starter gets dinged up.
No.
Being in a very, interesting game situation that you'd like him to have some experience in.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
If it comes down to him doing that in crunch time.
It has nothing to do with that. Hit the total, hit the over, make your fans happy. Everybody leaves the stadium happy because you won. Everybody leaves the stadium happier because they won. There's a difference. Think deeper.
Well, maybe you should ask that. We'll see. We'll see if it gets that far. We will talk to you tomorrow. Hopefully, Ari doesn't ask anything too dumb. We'll see.